Hi, listeners, and welcome back to the Holistic Academy podcast. David and I are really excited to kick off 2026, where we'll still be talking all about how ancient wisdom meets cutting edge science to help you live a healthier, happier, and more holistic life. Today, we're diving into one of the most powerful parts of being human. It's going to be the topic friendship and belonging, and how healthy relationships can shape our identity and emotional well-being.
Thank you, Amy, and thank you everyone for listening in this 2026 experience. We are trying out a new way of enlightening with these ancient topics, and in today's episode, I think it's extremely important as we notice that friendship has been changing every time since, I think, for me, since COVID. People have changed a lot in the concept of what is a friendship and how do you want to show up, what kind of friendships are nurturing and what kind of friendships are toxic. So all of those things we are going to dive deep. So stay tuned.
Yeah, it's such an important topic. I don't remember ever having a lesson about how to make a friend and what is a good friend and what is a bad friend. So it's almost like you go through life navigating all these interactions and experiences, trying to work out as well what a good friend is and how to keep them in our lives.
Yeah, it is. It is extremely, let's say, strange how now we have to be careful with the kind of people that approach us and that try to be our friends because nowadays, with this extremely powerful uh, spread of the messages, spread of comparison, spread of toxic beliefs, I think even children are not now many times honest and sincere in what they want from a friend, and they are just looking to take out something from it. So it's just a matter of resonating, I think, in the frequency of people that you want around. No.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's such an important concept to look at. And you're right, even as a child, it's hard to navigate different interactions and experiences and knowing what interactions are serving us and which ones are not. And it's something to be aware of as well, as you were mentioning in adult life. As some people aren't here just to make friends, that they could be here to manipulate us or get something out of us or even scam us. So it's good to really think properly about what type of friends we want in our lives and how are we going to keep them in our lives, and also what our boundaries are. What, might a friend do that we wouldn't tolerate, and how would we address it, and how would we communicate about it? All of that is really important to friendship. So, as always, maybe we can start back in ancient times and explore what the ancients thought about friendship.
Mm.
Aristotle, as we know, is a Greek philosopher, and he didn't just want buddies that you can hang out with. He was all about having a soul partner. So for him, real friends weren't just for laughs. They were also there to make you better, which for me, I think is an important part of friendship. Aristotle said a true friend is someone who sharpens your character, challenges your choices, and helps you become the person you are meant to be. And moving as well with Plato, he was another Greek philosopher, and he took a little different twist on friendship, as he saw it as a philosophical quest. So friendships weren't just for companionship, they were also co-explorers of the truth. So you didn't just sit back and agree with your friend, you like to question things, debate things, ideate, look at each other's imagination, talk about possibilities and the world and experiences, and you pushed each other toward deeper meaning and bigger ideas.
Love that.
And maybe we can also look at ancient China, because there they saw friendship a little bit different. It was almost like a moral training ground. So a good friend didn't just support you, they also corrected you. I think nowadays some people are still in friendships people pleasing, but I know I have some real friends, and that's when we can be brutally honest with each other and also correct our character and say, hold on, I'd like to say that. Oh, I'm not sure if I agree with that. And can you hear my perspective? And we can come to also different viewpoints in the truth. So for Confucius and ancient China, friends helped you walk the right path, stay grounded, and grow into someone worthy of respect. And moving to ancient Rome, Cicero, he went all in on trust. He was a real loyalist. So for him, friendship was a sacred act. If you weren't loyal, then there wasn't any friendship. And real friends stood with you in public, defended you in private, and were steady, I guess, when life got messy. To finish off a couple of things as well is Epicurus back in ancient Greece. He thought friendship was more about emotional shelter. So in this chaotic world we live in, a good friend was peace, comfort, and safety. A place where you can finally breathe and let out all that stress. So I agree. I think my friends as well, the best friends are there who can look at me without judgment, hold my emotions, allow me to cry it out or even laugh it out or celebrate. They're there for everything in this messy world. So between Aristotle and Epicurus, do we need friends who push us or friends that comfort us? Or do we need both? What do you think, David?
Well, it's just really interesting the way ancient cultures think about friendship, because I couldn't agree more with all of the reasoning. I think sometimes you need your friends to debate you on your beliefs, to also push you to defend your points, and also even to make you or help you to see what you are doing with your life and with the people around you, so that you can be a better person, so improve you, as they mention. I also believe that every time you pass in the life of someone, even if it's not a friend, even if it's a stranger, and you just have or interchange a brief period of time, I think that you cross path with that person because you are there to improve, at least in something, at least in a reflection, at least in a perspective, at least in something that you can give them a new insight of things. And that's also people that cross in your life because they are attached to you in a level of soul, no?
Yeah, that is very interesting. There's so many layers as well to friendship. And is it really like a coincidence, the people you meet, or not? And like you say, everyone could be here for a reason. And it is to grow, ultimately, this human journey, growing in our consciousness, our awareness, our understanding of ourself and our identity. And that can be shaped a lot about how we relate in the world and towards our friendships. But before we dive in as well to the science part, I think it's worth mentioning about indigenous and ancient spiritual traditions, because they saw friendship even deeper as something within a community, not just one-on-one bonds. So it was so important to be connected to your tribe, your village, because all of that meant survival and spiritual harmony. And imagine if we, as a culture in the West, or even over where you are in Mexico as well, could tolerate everyone's differences and come together as a village, a community, a tribe, where we all are there for survival, but also want to get on harmoniously. We all want to see the better of each other and the betterment of our community, and bring in more success together. So it's quite different from how we live in our more individualist cultures at the moment. But definitely the big takeaway is that across cultures, friendship isn't just social, it's more than that. It's spiritual, it's a moral practice, and it's essential for us to have a good life. The ancients believe we don't just become our best selves alone, we become them together. So even though these philosophers, you might think of all their ideas in isolation and are a very introverted person, they also contemplate friendship very deeply. And in fact, they might also be slightly extrovert and know the power and importance of friendship and discussion.
It is indeed a powerful influence when you meet people on a different level, and also, as you mentioned, cross culture. When you have friends nowadays, that we have this kind of technology where we can connect all over the world with people, and we find them in the most, let's say, random but synchronistic ways. I have made friends across these different social platforms that I just met because of a comment, or because they just were picked on one of the articles that I published, or one of the podcasts that I did, or something that they experienced with me. And I think that is very nurturing, because we learn also to see the world in a different view, from another country, from another culture, from another tradition, and we grow faster when we learn to accept people for who they are, and not from the way, I mean, the country they come from, or the skin, or the language, or anything else, but just their own, let's say, inner self. No.
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely resonate with you. When I left England to go to the Netherlands, I met a lot of people there from different cultures, because I guess you feel in another culture, also someone on the outside. So I had friends from not only the Netherlands, but Poland and Norway and India and Russia, and all of them give such, like you say, different perspectives, and it's really interesting, and you can learn so much more about life, but also so much about yourself, and whether you'd like to explore some of those things that you didn't know before were real until you had this conversation. And there's been many friends that I've made, and I've managed to go and visit their homes, whether it be in Italy or Norway, or yeah, and just you get such a different experience when you're with their family in that culture, and they all treat friendship differently in cultures too, and how they also invite people into their homes. But it's such a lovely experience, and it does really help you grow and learn more about yourself. And I think it's also important to realize we all have different friends as well, for different reasons. Some might be friends because they were friends with us from school, so we've got lots of joy and memories reflecting back at home, and they know what we were like growing up. So there's that like inseparable understanding of our inner child and what jokes to make. But then we also have friends who we might not talk to every month, maybe twice a year, but when you get on the phone, it's like they never left, and they've always got such great insights, or they've read such cool books that you're always excited to hear about and learn about. And then you've got friends as well who are just there for like your emotional support, but some of the best people are there for understanding you and how not to. Yeah, well, emotions are tricky, aren't they? So how not to make it all about themselves, but actually be kind and compassionate when you're going through the feels. So yeah, they come in all different shapes and sizes, at least in my life, and it's interesting to explore. And also asking people about friendships. Some of my friends have conditions on friendships, like you have to be able to message every month for it to be counted as their friend or not. Or some people before wanted me to text them every day or meet them every day, and I think that was a little bit too far out. But everyone has different versions of friendship too, because we don't, discuss what is a friend and a friendship, and we don't necessarily all agree. So it is a dance and a play in life, I think, to navigate what is our friend and what's a good friend, and how we can cultivate those strong, lasting relationships that serve us. So let's get into the science, David. What more do they say about friendship?
Well, to speak about this topic and also give this mixture of the science, we will introduce now a concept that is extremely important, which is the external self. And that is a concept treated or discovered or studied by modern psychology. And that often tells you how to look inside to find ourselves. However, we know, Amy, that as you have presented the opposite notion based on ancient wisdom, we cannot fully know ourselves in isolation. So our identity is not a static object hidden inside of us. It is a reflection generated by our relationship. And I think we mirror a lot of things in our relationships. And if you were the last person on earth, who would you be? You would exist, but you would have an identity. And this topic has been touched by a series that I have watched that is called The Pluribus. And I really find it interesting because it talks about this topic. If you are left alone on earth, what are you going to do? How are you going to relate with the few people that probably also survived something? You know?
You're right. I think that's a really good question. There's something that people say, which is like you become like the 5 people that you hang out with the most. So that's why it's important to definitely choose our friendships and let go of ones that perhaps don't have the best habits that we repeat, or may have some toxic traits. But yeah, if you were on your own in Earth and you were the last person on Earth, then who would you be relating to? Maybe the animals, maybe the trees. Maybe it'd be a bit like the Jungle Book, you know, Mowgli, the Disney character who gets lost in the woods and then learns to be friends with the jaguar and the bear, and they all just get on, and you learn actually different secrets of nature and how to live in relationship with the earth in a different way. So I might not be Amy as I know myself today, and I might not have to even put on some of my different personality traits to resonate with my friends and things. I might just be able to just be me naturally. Or I might also be very scared all the time and being like, what's that snake and what's that bear? And I can't talk to them. How are they going to communicate with me? So anyway, it's a really interesting question to ponder. And maybe that's something that people can take away tonight, is thinking, really, who would you be if no one else was with you on this planet? And if you were on your own on this planet, what would your identity be? I think it's such an important question when we strip away all those layers of how society or our upbringing or schools have influenced us as well and who we are.
Yeah, it is. It is very powerful, the influence that people have on us, and also our concept and our identity has changed a lot. And probably the bigger question I think that people could ask today, just to go to sleep and reflect on that, is what is your identity today? Who you are today, and what is that you are bringing into the friendship equation, let's say. And to also navigate around this topic, we are going to go into modern times, and we're going to cite now a scientist that was a sociologist, Charles Horton, in 1902. And he famously argued that we form our identity by imagining how others see us. And this is very, let's say, polemic. We can say, in short, you become who you think others think you are. Furthermore, Erving Goffman in 1956 to 1959 saw life as a stage. We perform different versions of ourselves depending on the audience. So your external self is the role you play in public, shaped by context, culture, and social rules. So the takeaway is that these thinkers agree with you, Amy. And here, the external self isn't who you are alone in a room, it's who you become in the eyes of others. From Cooley's looking glass self to Goffman's social stage, ancient and modern thinkers agree identity is something we perform, reflect, and co create together.
Mhm. That's pretty cool. And definitely, identity for me is tied up in how I relate to others. But I quite liked what Goffman said about life being a stage because a lot of us aren't fully authentic, I guess, in some friendships. Some friendships we do perform a bit like a theatre, wearing different masks. So it's important as we journey through this podcast episode today that you also reflect on which people are you wearing masks with, and is that helping you? Is that energizing you? Or is that draining your energy? And if so, which friends do you want to have? And do you have friends where you can be completely yourself, your authentic self, and fully accepted as well, without these masks, without this performance? But yeah, like you said, David, it's definitely a co creation between who we're interacting with and how we want to show up, and also ourselves. And I think as well, it's really great that we're addressing this because even as an adult, it's hard for me in new environments always to make friends. It's almost like everyone already has their already established social group, and unless you're all in an environment together that's new, with that intention that no one knows each other to connect, it's very hard to sort of get through to other friendship groups that are well established. So it's a great
Mm.
concept, but there are definitely some friendship groups we all want to be in, especially those millionaire clubs where they're all friends as well, going to these islands or jet setting. But yeah, it's about also finding people with the same values as you and who really resonate and align on your goals, and also a little bit about how you perceive in the world and what your views of reality are. And as you mentioned, David, like in the COVID period, there's a lot of time where we got to stay at home and reflect on who our real friends were, and with all the different information and misinformation going on, I think it also meant that discussing topics with friends became quite difficult, and we were all really scared and fearful in this time. We didn't know what was going to happen and if we would ever come out of it. So again, we were reevaluating a lot of things and how we relate to ourselves, the world, and reality. And we must have all had sort of a conscious shift and upgrade in that time, in really finding out, yeah, when we come back in this world, where are we going to put our energy? And we need to be more conscious and which friendships are really going to benefit us. So let's
Yeah.
also discuss a little bit more about the science, because I think having a friend is so important, but even a group of friends is even more important, because friendship in modern science has shown it can extend your life.
Hmm.
According
Yeah.
to a study in Harvard, it was an 80-year study, can you believe it? They were looking at the quality of relationships. And the quality, if it's a high quality, it was the strongest predictor of long-term happiness and health, much more than money, fame, or social class. So it's pretty impressive. And not only that, other scientists have shown our brains, we're wired for connection. We're born to relate and connect with the world, including our parents, but also others. Dr. Helen Fisher, who's a biological anthropologist, and Dr. Stephen Porges, a neuroscientist, they also confirmed that this human connection triggers all those good, juicy, happy, healthy molecules in our brain like oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin. And not only that, these reduce stress, increase trust, and our sense of emotional safety. So science is backing it up. Friendship is super good for us.
Yeah. And I saw the talk of this researcher that I was trying to remember his name, or it doesn't ring a bell right now. But I listened to him and I saw the big study that they did in Harvard with these people that they follow for 80 years, and that's just amazing. The number of biomarkers that they measure in terms of the neurotransmitters, the dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, all of those markers that lower inflammation and that give us a real new perspective in life and also make us think more in terms of resolving problems. When we have these kind of friendships that push us to be better, we are challenged to also come out of our comfort zone, and we need to grow and we need to expand and we need to adapt to different cultures. And you mentioned something before that made me think. When I lived in the US, particularly in Philadelphia, it was a very difficult city to live on because I couldn't make friends. And as you mentioned, the groups, the friendship groups were very established, were very close and tight. And it was, for me, it was really a really challenging period. I think it was the only period where I have felt depression, where I felt that I was really alone, isolated, and I really suffered from a lot of, let's say, sadness because I don't know, I couldn't adapt to the kind of close-minded culture that they have in this particular city. That also, after years after, I discovered that it is a city that even US people talk about it because they say that it's the most difficult city to adapt. So I felt better after, but it was really strange what happened there. But I learned a lot from myself and I learned a lot to be independent. So even in those aspects, it made me grow. It pushed me out of my comfort zone, and it gave me tools that nowadays I really appreciate. So
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? How, like, even those hard times when we don't have any friends, they can really
yeah.
push us to also grow in new ways and discover new things. So, thank you for sharing that story. I totally relate to that too.
Yeah, and we are going to talk now how our friends are a stress shield. So the psychologist Dr. Sheldon Cohen shows that people with strong social networks have lower stress responses and stronger immune system. So a supportive friend doesn't just change your mood, they change your biology, as we mentioned. So there are a lot of biomarkers right now that they have been identified with these friendships that we can have. And furthermore, it is important to mention that loneliness is a serious health risk, and Dr. Julianne Holt-Lunstad performed several meta-analyses that found that chronic loneliness and social isolation increase the risk of early death as much as smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day. So that is just staggering, no?
It shows how
Uh,
important friendship is for longevity and a long-lasting life, and how, yeah, it's not good to stay in environments where we feel isolated for a long time either.
yeah. And finally, belonging builds resilience. And this is one of my favorite authors and also podcast that I listen to, Dr. Brené Brown, a research professor from the University of Houston, shows that belonging and connection are core to resilience, to courage, to emotional strength. So we have a lot of proofs, we have science, we have ancient cultures, and now the question is on the side of the listeners. What is friendship for you, and what are you giving to your friends?
Yeah, what a great question. I can't wait to read all about it. I couldn't agree with you more, though, David, that friendship is such an important topic to discuss and so important with our identity, who we are, how we relate in the world, how we show up, how we also build that resilience so that we can go through hard times and we can still show up with a smile on our face on the other side. And sometimes it's only down to having really, really good friends that can lift us up out of that darkness too. So it shows again that science truly echoes all the things that were shown before in ancient science and wisdom. Connection isn't just good for your soul, it's also essential for your survival. So today we're going to end on 3 everyday strategies to create healthy, flourishing, holistic relationships. First one is that concept, the external self that we talked about. If we can reflect on that, how we relate to our world externally, we could take a moment to notice how these social interactions we're having are influencing our identity. Who are these friendships? Are they all men? Are they all women? Is there a mix? Are they all one type of profession? It's really interesting to question who you're surrounding yourself with. Next time you're with someone, you could even pause and ask, which relationships, or does this relationship help me grow into my best self? Or is it holding me back? Our true friends aren't just companions, they're mirrors and teachers and co-creators of the life you want to live. So it's the ugly truth, isn't it? Stand in that mirror. Do you like your reflection and who you're becoming? And if not, perhaps you either need to do some work on your own, or you need to upgrade your friendship circle and find other people who can help co-create that life that you want to live with similar values. So it's really important that we have friends who can support our sorrows, but also celebrate our successes. Number
And I love the second one. I love the second one that you put us to reflect on, which is prioritize deep connection over many. And I think that this is very important right now. Focus on a few friendships that inspire growth, trust, and joy. Quality beats quantity. Aristotle called these virtue friendships. And can you be yourself and share about challenges, fears, and dreams with these friends? So surround yourself with those who share your values and goals and add meaning to your life. And I think that this is so important because friendship, the concept that I also have is that you have to nurture it and you have to take take care of friendships, mostly with these deep friendships, like a plant that every day you have to do something that inspires this relationship to grow. I mean, every day is just a saying, but you should continuously do some things and share what you want with that friendship. No?
Absolutely. That leads us really lovely onto the third tip. And that is about scheduling your regular friend time, just like you did with your plant. You should maybe schedule it. I know it's hard because life gets in the way,
Yeah.
and our old friends also, life happens, doesn't it? And are doing different things. But if you could schedule in some weekly calls or walks, activities or dinners, it really helps keep those bonds alive. Actually, having this social calendar in your diary and having a social rhythm strengthens that brain's reward system, increasing the dopamine, oxytocin, reducing stress and feelings of loneliness. So having a social life makes you happy, so why would you stop? And with your friends, it's important when you have this time together that you're really present. You're not on the phone necessarily. You learn to listen well. Be truly there for them so you can hear, reflect, and validate your feelings their feelings, and validate them as your friends. And that helps to bring out the best version of your friend, building the trust and making our friendships resilient under stress. So, yeah, it's been a powerful journey today exploring friendships. There's so many more concepts we could go into. I invite you to question your friendships and what friendship means to you, as David invited, right in the comments. I also invite you to ask your children. I think it's so important we have these conversations with them so that they also have some tools to navigate when times get tough. And we also need to know as well when to leave a friendship. And that's all to do with our self worth and our integrity and our values and what we do and don't tolerate. So there's lots of things to think about. And I definitely, over the years, have had to prune my friends and create a really small friendship circle. But it's definitely worth it when you have really high quality friends. So I hope you've
Yeah.
enjoyed this episode. It's been really wonderful to get back on it in 2026. We've got some really exciting new episodes coming up, all about this journey into our identity and ourself. And next week, I think we're going to dive into more of our family relationships, looking at potentially the mother wound and the father wound, a bit of psychotherapy, how we relate to our parents, how that affects our friendships growing up. So it's going to be really juicy, really deep, really personal. And I'm really excited to also see you all there next week.
Thank you, Amy. And I think that I can definitely agree with a lot of these reflections that we mentioned, and that we are going to leave the people in the comments so that they can give us their perspective. And I also can share that this kind of relationship where you schedule things to do are the most rewarding in terms of looking forward to those talks, long talks, where you share a lot of your personal journeys, and it's empowering that you have this kind of people where you share your true self and where you are listened, and you can be open about everything. So thank you, everyone. And also stay tuned because we are going to announce very soon our program throughout 2026 of monthly master classes that you can take, that you can subscribe one by one, 3 months, 6 months, or the whole year as you wish to subscribe to us. But we are going to navigate the 5 pillars of health, and we're going to give you deep topics and handouts so that you can practice all of these pillars throughout the year. So thank you, and we will listen to each other on our next episode. Bye.
Bye.